Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt that sick, sinking feeling in your stomach? That moment when you realize your paycheck is already spoken for, even though it hasn't hit your account? That was me, exactly 1 year ago, living paycheck to paycheck on $35,000 a year in a city where that barely covered rent. But here's the twist. 12 months later, I had $20,000 saved up. No inheritance, no side hustle, no crypto gambling, just pure calculated strategy that anyone can follow. You're probably thinking, yeah, right, I get it. I used to roll my eyes at those savings videos too. Those perfectly curated success stories where someone saves a fortune while somehow maintaining their dream lifestyle. But this isn't that kind of story. This is about the real, sometimes uncomfortable changes that transformed not just my bank account, but my entire relationship with money. Let me paint you a picture of where I started. My rent ate up 40% of my monthly income. That's $1,166 out the window before I even thought about utilities. I was dropping $15 on lunch nearly every workday because meal prep felt overwhelming. That's $300 a month, gone. Add in the $14.99 Netflix subscription I barely used, the $9.99 Spotify Premium I could have downgraded, and the $5.99 Apple storage I forgot I was paying for. These seemingly small expenses were silently draining my account of nearly $400 every single year. But here's what really shocked me. According to the Federal Reserve's latest survey of consumer finances, 35% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without selling something or going into debt. And get this, the average millennial has less than $5,000 in savings while carrying over $28,000 in non-mortgage debt. I wasn't just broke, I was part of a national crisis. The breaking point? It wasn't some dramatic moment. It was a random Tuesday when I realized I had spent $47 on takeout because I was too tired to cook the groceries sitting in my fridge. That same day, I read something that changed everything. The average American household wastes nearly $1,500 worth of food every year. $1,500, just thrown away. That's when I started doing the math. If I could just save $55 per day through a combination of smart choices and eliminated waste, I could reach my seemingly impossible goal of $20,000 in 1 year. It sounds daunting, right? But break it down. That's skipping one takeout meal, $15, bringing coffee from home, $5, eliminating one impulse purchase, $20, and finding one bill to reduce or eliminate, $15. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think saving money is about making huge sacrifices. But what I discovered was something entirely different. It's about making intentional decisions, hundreds of tiny ones that add up to massive change. And it all started with what I call the $0 decision. A strategy so simple yet so powerful, it transformed how I thought about every single purchase. But before I reveal exactly how the $0 decision works, let me share something that might surprise you. Studies show that people who write down their financial goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. Not just think about them, write them down. When I learned this, I didn't just write down my goal. I made it my phone's wallpaper, set daily reminders, and told everyone who would listen. Because sometimes, the difference between a dream and a goal is just how many people know about it. Want to know how the $0 decision changed everything? And why traditional budgeting advice might actually be holding you back? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next completely changed how I approach saving money, and it might just change your life too. Now, let me introduce you to the $0 decision that changed everything. Every single time I wanted to buy something, I asked myself, if this cost $0, would I still want it? Sounds simple, right? But this question revealed something shocking about my spending habits, and probably yours too. Let me give you a real example. I was subscribed to 3 different streaming services: Netflix, Hulu, and Disney+. That's $35 monthly, which doesn't sound like much. But when I asked myself the $0 question, I realized something. I was spending 80% of my viewing time on just one platform. The others, I was keeping them just in case. That's $420 a year I was spending on just in case. But here's where it gets interesting. According to a recent survey by C.S. Mott Children's Hospital, the average American spends 4 hours per day watching streaming content. That's 1,460 hours per year. Now, let's do some math that will blow your mind. If you work a 40-hour week at $15 per hour, you're essentially spending 36.5 weeks worth of work hours watching content. When I realized this, I didn't just cancel subscriptions, I started turning my watching time into wealth-building time. This leads me to what I call the time-money matrix, another game-changing concept. For every purchase, I started calculating not just the dollar cost, but the time cost. That $15 lunch, at my hourly rate, that's 1 hour of work. That new $60 game, 4 hours of my life. This shift in perspective was revolutionary. Here's a shocking statistic that changed how I think about small purchases. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American spends $3,459 per year on miscellaneous purchases, things they often can't even remember buying. That's nearly $300 per month disappearing into thin air. When I tracked my own spending, I discovered I was no different. So I developed what I call the 48-hour rule. Every non-essential purchase over $50 had to wait 48 hours. During this time, I had to write down 3 ways that money could be invested instead. Here's what happened. 70% of the time, I didn't make the purchase. Not because I was forcing myself not to, but because the desire naturally faded. But let's talk about something that might surprise you. I actually increased some of my spending. Yes, you heard that right. I discovered that spending more in certain areas actually helped me save thousands overall. For example, I invested in a high-quality coffee maker for $200. Sounds expensive, right? But here's the math. I was spending $4.75 daily on coffee shop drinks. That's $1,733.75 per year. My coffee maker paid for itself in less than 2 months and now saves me over $1,500 annually. This is what I call strategic spending, and it's backed by research. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that households who make intentional, planned purchases actually spend 23% less overall than those who make primarily impulse purchases. Why? Because they're thinking about the long game. Here's another mind-blowing fact. The average American household has 300,000 items. 300,000. When I learned this, I started my 1 in 2 out challenge. For every new item I wanted to bring into my home, I had to sell or donate 2 items first. Not only did this prevent unnecessary spending, but selling items on marketplace apps brought in an extra $1,200 over 3 months. But the real breakthrough came when I discovered something I call money momentum. You see, saving money is like working out. The hardest part is getting started, but once you build momentum, it becomes almost addictive. And I was about to discover how to make this momentum work in ways I never expected. Want to know how I turned these initial savings into a snowball of wealth? Stay tuned, because what comes next is the strategy that tripled my results, and it's something most financial advisors won't tell you about. Let's talk about something that transformed my entire saving strategy, what I call money momentum. Most people think saving is about restriction, but I discovered it's actually about acceleration. Here's what I mean, and this absolutely changed the game for me. Remember how I mentioned those initial savings from cutting subscriptions and applying the $0 decision? That was just the beginning. I created what I call the snowball saving system. Every single dollar I saved from one area immediately went into what I call my multiplication account. This wasn't just any savings account, this was my money's training ground. Here's where it gets exciting. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American family spends $3,189 annually on entertainment. When I tracked my own numbers, I was spending about $275 monthly on entertainment. That's $3,300 a year. But instead of just cutting this expense, I turned it into a wealth-building experiment. I created what I call entertainment arbitrage. Instead of completely eliminating entertainment, I found free alternatives and immediately moved the saved money to my multiplication account. Local festivals instead of expensive concerts, library cards instead of book purchases, free community fitness classes instead of that $89 monthly gym membership. Every single swap added to my momentum. But here's what most people miss. It's not just about saving money, it's about redirecting energy. Studies show that people who feel deprived are 3.1 times more likely to abandon their financial goals. So I developed the joy per dollar strategy. For every activity I considered, I calculated how much genuine happiness it brought per dollar spent. Let me break this down with real numbers. A $60 night out might provide 2 hours of enjoyment. That's $30 per hour of joy. But when I invested that same $60 in quality cooking equipment, it provided months of enjoyment through home-cooked meals, saving money, and learning new skills. The joy per dollar ratio was off the charts. This leads me to what I call the compound effect principle. According to behavioral economists, people who focus on systematic changes are 64% more likely to achieve their financial goals than those who rely on willpower alone. I turned this insight into a practical system. Every time I saved money in one category, I looked for a ripple effect opportunity. For example, bringing lunch to work didn't just save $15 daily on food. It saved on transportation costs, reduced impulse purchases at nearby stores, and even improved my health, reducing the potential medical expenses. One change created multiple benefits. Here's something fascinating. Researchers at the University of Cambridge found that people who track their expenses save an average of 15% more than those who don't. But I took this further with my triple impact tracking method. For every expense, I tracked 3 things: the monetary cost, the time cost, remember our time-money matrix, and the opportunity cost. Let me share a powerful example. When I calculated the true cost of my daily takeout coffee habit, I wasn't just looking at the $4.75 per cup. I factored in the 15 minutes spent in line each day. That's 65 hours per year. The additional snack purchases I made while there, $5 extra per visit. The gas used for the daily detour. The wear and tear on my car. When I saw the real numbers, over $2,300 annually when all costs were considered, my decision to change became automatic. But the real breakthrough came when I discovered how to turn these savings into what I call money machines. Systems that would generate more savings automatically. And this is where things got really interesting, because I was about to unlock a level of financial growth I never thought possible on my income. Want to know how I turned these daily savings into automated wealth-building machines? Stay with me, because what comes next is the strategy that took my savings from steady to explosive, and it's something that works even while you sleep. Now, let me introduce you to what I call money machines. The systems that turned my saving habits into automated wealth-building engines. This is where everything we've discussed comes together in a way that's absolutely mind-blowing. First, let's talk about what most financial advisors get wrong. They tell you to budget, to track every penny, to constantly monitor your spending. But here's the truth. According to research published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, people who focus too much on daily financial decisions experience decision fatigue, making them 42% more likely to make poor financial choices later in the day. That's why I developed what I call the set and scale system. Instead of making hundreds of daily decisions, I created automated rules that did the heavy lifting for me. Here's how it works, and trust me, this is a game changer. I set up what I call money funnels, multiple savings accounts with specific purposes. The Bill Shield, 50% of my income automatically went here for essential expenses. The Growth Engine, 30% went straight to savings before I could touch it. The Life Fund, 15% for guilt-free spending. The Opportunity Fund, 5% for unexpected opportunities or emergencies. But here's where it gets interesting. According to a study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, people who automate their savings save an average of 256% more than those who don't. When I implemented my money funnel system, my savings rate exploded. Let me share something powerful that most people miss. I discovered what I call savings stacking. Every time I negotiated a bill down, like when I reduced my phone bill by $45 monthly, I didn't just pocket the difference. I immediately set up an automatic transfer for that exact amount to my Growth Engine account. This created what behavioral economists call a commitment device, making it psychologically harder to backslide. Here's a mind-blowing statistic. The average American household has 17 recurring monthly subscriptions, often forgetting about 40% of them. When I audited my subscriptions, I found $127 in monthly charges I barely used. But instead of just canceling them, I turned them into what I call reverse subscriptions, automatic transfers to my savings in the exact same amounts on the same days. This leads me to my parallel saving strategy. For every regular expense I couldn't eliminate, I created a parallel saving amount. Spending $60 on internet, set up an automatic $60 transfer to savings. This might sound extreme, but here's the psychological trick. It forces you to evaluate each expense based on whether it's worth double its cost. But the real breakthrough came from what I call velocity stacking. According to financial researchers, people who save in multiple ways simultaneously are 3.7 times more likely to reach their financial goals. So I combined all these strategies. Automated transfers from every paycheck, round-up savings from every purchase, parallel saving amounts, reverse subscriptions, bill reduction transfers. The results were astronomical. Remember those initial daily savings of $55? By implementing these automated systems, I was able to capture and multiply every single dollar saved. The automation eliminated the need for willpower, making saving as natural as breathing. Here's something that blew my mind. A study by the Financial Health Network found that households with automated savings plans have an average net worth 446% higher than those without. But what's really fascinating is the compound effect over time. Every automated dollar you save today is worth approximately $584 in 10 years, assuming average market returns. But this isn't even the most powerful part. What I discovered next about psychological triggers and reward systems would take my saving strategy to an entirely new level. And it's something that most people never even consider when trying to save money. Want to know how I used behavioral psychology to make saving money actually addictive? Stay tuned, because what comes next is the strategy that not only helped me reach my goal, but made the entire process enjoyable. And it's something anyone can implement starting today. Let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle, what I call psychological money mastery. This is where everything we've discussed transforms from a saving strategy into a lifetime of financial success. And trust me, this changed everything. I discovered something fascinating about behavioral psychology and money. According to research from the University of Chicago, people who associate positive emotions with saving are 89% more likely to stick to their financial goals long term. This led me to develop what I call the reward loop system. Here's how it works, and this is absolutely crucial. Instead of viewing saving as sacrifice, I created specific rewards for hitting savings milestones. But here's the genius part. These rewards didn't involve spending money. For every $1,000 saved, I gave myself permission to take a full day off for creative projects, learn a new skill using free online resources, explore a new part of my city on foot, host a potluck dinner with friends, start a passion project I'd been putting off. The results were revolutionary. According to neuroscientists, when we associate pleasure with a behavior, we're 3.4 times more likely to repeat it. By creating these positive associations with saving, I actually started looking forward to putting money aside. But here's where it gets even more interesting. I developed what I call the identity shift method. Instead of thinking, I'm trying to save money, I started thinking, I'm a person who builds wealth. This subtle shift is backed by research showing that identity-based habits are 71% more likely to stick than goal-based ones. Let me share something powerful. According to a study in the Journal of Personal Finance, people who view themselves as investors rather than savers tend to accumulate 2.7 times more wealth over time. So I started calling my savings account my investment in freedom and my budget my wealth blueprint. This leads me to the most important discovery of my entire journey. The real secret isn't about the money at all, it's about who you become in the process of saving it. Every time I made a conscious choice to save, I wasn't just building my bank account, I was building my character. Here are the exact steps you can take to start your own journey today. Implement the $0 decision for every purchase for the next 48 hours. Set up your money funnel system with multiple targeted savings accounts. Create your own reward loop with non-monetary celebrations. Start one money machine automation this week. Choose a new identity statement that reflects your financial goals. But remember this crucial fact. According to behavioral scientists, people who share their financial goals with a community are 42% more likely to achieve them. That's why I want you to drop a comment below with your first commitment. What's the first money machine you're going to build? Here's something mind-blowing to consider. If you start today and save just $55 per day like I did, in 5 years, you could have over $100,000, assuming a modest return rate. That's not just money, that's freedom. That's options. That's the power to say yes to opportunities and no to situations that don't serve you. Think about this. Every day you wait is a day of potential savings lost forever. The average millionaire has 7 streams of income, but they didn't build them all at once. They started exactly where you are right now, with one decision to take control of their financial future. Remember, saving $20,000 didn't happen in one giant leap. It happened in thousands of tiny moments where I chose my future self over my present impulses. And if someone like me could save $20,000 on a low income, imagine what you could do. The only question left is, are you ready to start your journey? Because financial freedom isn't about making more money. It's about making better decisions with the money you have. And that journey can start right now with your very next purchase. Don't forget to like this video if you found it valuable, subscribe for more financial strategies, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can build a community of wealth builders who support and inspire each other. Remember, your future self is watching your decisions today. Make them proud. This is your time. Let's do this together.